Hello, guys. This is Joseph Idriemi, one of the curators of Our Connection to Water at the National Maritime Museum. And we have here our lovely guest and also part of the Our Connection to Water exhibition, Artemis. How are you, Artemis?
Hello, I'm good. You?
I'm fine, thank you. I'm okay. I'm okay. How's things on your side? I know that we wish we could have had this a face-to-face conversation, but obviously you live in Cyprus, but you have actually come down to the exhibition to share your amazing works that responds to water. And yeah, we just want to say that we're very, very grateful for you. We thank you for just providing a deeper insight to, the relationship, your connection to water.
Thank you for the opportunity. I mean, London was London. Like you have to come and try to make time for everyone, and it doesn't ever work out. But I'm really happy I met you because okay, the the conversations and the connection we had through online meetings was great, but meeting both of you in person and then meeting all the artists in person was really important for me. It was more important than anything else, to be honest. Like it just made me realize how amazing the opportunity was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, even as an artist, I think what was amazing about the whole group, the group of artists that joined the exhibition was the fact that everyone came from different backgrounds.
Yeah.
Um, Everyone had a different story to tell, which was something very unique that's happened at the National Maritime Museum, and it was just a great opportunity that we as artists get to showcase something that everyone had in common, water. Everyone has
Yeah.
in common, but the difference is that the culture is what tells a different story and shares the importance of having water in your daily life.
Yeah, the way it was curated really, I don't know, it really got to me because it was covering so many aspects that were so relevant to so many people, but none none of them was the same. Like none of them was the same topic about water. So I think that's why it's so powerful, and that's why it was really interesting to meet everyone.
Right.
Um, it was really lovely.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Artemis, tell us more about yourself. And we all obviously know that your work is at the National Maritime Museum for this exhibition, Our Connection to Water, titled your project or your work, West of the Sun, East of the Moon. Would you like to tell us more about yourself and also about your work?
So, well, West of the Sun, East of the Moon, is about the process of transformation.
Mm,
And I was looking at deities and beliefs from different cultures all around the world. And because water is associated with birth and rebirth, a lot of the deities also were female,
mm,
which obviously has to do with pregnancy. But also I think it's about the feeling that water gives you in general.
mm.
Even if you take a shower, you're transformed. I mean, it's such an important part of your day. It's an important ritual, and that's what Daphne Bor was showing in his work as well.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I was trying to explore this process through analog photography and sound. And with sound, I focused a lot on animals that had to do with transformation in different cultures, like the Maori culture and what it meant or what it means for indigenous people, for indigenous tribes, and what the animals meant to them, like because each animal had a symbolism.
Mm.
So West of the Sun, East of the Moon is about the process of transformation. And I was looking at it from various indigenous cultures that exist or existed, and from all over the world. And then a lot of the times, the deities that were related to the process of transformation were female, and that's because of the association it had to birth and rebirth, and obviously, you know, we give birth.
Yep.
But also it was about how much respect I think they had to water as a source of life. And that is a source of transformation. It's just, it's like if you go back, I think always if you go back into nature, you're always trying to, you always find like the real meaning of things.
Yeah.
And this project was about that, and it was looking at, and I was exploring it through analog photography and sound. So that's how these two things merge together.
You know what? What you've done there was beautifully done in terms of merging analog and sound together. Because when you go into the space, it's almost like the sound, even though the sound is of different creatures or living forms underwater, on this, you know, and then when you see the analog work that you've created, it's almost like telling a story all the way through. So there was a connection there for people to see and for people to hear. And that was really, really amazing. And that kind of leads me back into the next question about, you know, why do you do this? You know, as an artist, a lot of artists have the reason why they do what they do is because they want to have a voice. They feel like this is what is meant for them. This is their purpose. But for you, in this unique way of making work, what is it? Why do you do this? What's the reason behind it? Is there a sub story, or is there a different story to, you know, the work that you've been doing? What's the reason?
In terms of why I'm using these forms of communication, or you mean in general my work?
I think it's more about, and it's more about your work generally. You know, using analog, you know, that's interesting. And you know, using analog and then using sound, merging them together in a way that we've put it together at the exhibition. But also ultimately your work and your practice. What's the reason for your practice? Like, how did it came about? How did it started?
So with analog, I love the process because it's so slow and you don't know what to expect, especially the way I'm doing it. So I'm experimenting a lot also in the darkroom. It's not only about the photographs. But there's a process to taking photos in film where you have to be really, really present. You have to be there. Whereas with digital cameras, you don't, because you can take a million photos and it doesn't matter. And it's completely different. And being in the dark room, in the dark, and slowly seeing things come together is this whole world. So I guess the process is what I love the most. And that works the same for sound. Like you can't not be present for sound. And that links in with film, which is another thing I do. I've noticed over the years, because I've done a lot of things or I worked with a lot of mediums, that the ones that really, really, really kind of help me express my whatever, my thoughts or emotions are the ones that help me stay in the present. And I don't know if it's because I find it hard to do so on other things, but I mean, when I make art, it's very meditative. So it's I think that's what keeps me so interested in it a lot of the time.
Wow, that's quite interesting, because a lot of artists, you know, have this thing of I need to do work because it's burning in me. I have to do it because this is my talent, as it were. But with you, is more about, you know, meditation, as you just said. It's about really being submerged in the work. So like when you're talking about the analog photos that you take, it's like you take your time with it. You really reflect on what you're shooting. So it's not just on just shooting because the image looks good. And that really tells it says a lot in those 6 images that you have, that you really focus a lot on the reflection and the meditation around the image. And when you look at those images, and many times have when I invite someone to see your work at the exhibition, a lot of people see other images within the image. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
people see other figures within the image. And now that you've said it, it does make huge sense that when you shoot, you really take time, and it is evident. It's really, really evident. And that kind of goes back down to it goes now to the next question in terms of, your work, and what what is it like is the most important thing in your work? What is it that is it the message? Is it the image? What is the most important thing when you're shooting, for instance, using an analog camera?
Um, for me,
Mm.
I don't know, because I'm jumping, like I jumped a lot in mediums and I'm still jumping. So I think it's to be as I think it's the first thing. It's gonna sound maybe a bit superficial, but it's really important for me. Is like you have to enjoy it. Like every time I've done work that's been appreciated by others or been successful in quotation marks, like it's gone somewhere where it makes me happy.
Mm.
Um, it's been because I enjoyed it so much, and that it comes from like enjoying the whole process. So from taking the photo or recording the sound to collaboration to whatever the process needs to be. um and then the message, I think, if you're kind of if you're doing something from pure enjoyment and you're not trying to force something out, it means you're being honest, and that's the kind of the message comes out anyway. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to, it's not forced. You're not trying to be didactic, or it comes out as a story rather than something that's pre-planned. But it's a story nevertheless.
So it's almost spontaneous, but the purpose is within that spontaneous work that you do. So as long as when you're working, there is a story, or it's not like you're forging the story. You're not like you're forcing it. You're forcing that story to be told this way, and it has to be in a way. But it's like you're, for instance, like with the analog photos that's in the show at the moment. It's almost like once you've done those images, and you've done what you need to do with it, and it's like when people see the work, it's like, okay, they can almost tell their own story within it.
Yeah, I mean, even the way that like the project came up was because I was focusing on portraits, and I was thinking, oh, I'm like, I don't like taking portraits that are just people's faces. It's still beautiful, but it's not my what makes me happy. I want something beyond that, like capturing the person behind it. And I asked a friend to go out with me to the sea, and I was taking portraits of her, and that's how the project started, because we started talking that we're in this moment of transformation. And then all of this, it was so random, it wasn't planned, it just happened. And she's older than me, but she was still like, we're all transforming all the time, like we're becoming hopefully a better version of ourselves or whatever, like we're not staying static. So no matter what, we'd like to think. So it was nice how it came about. I don't even remember what your question was, but
No, no, no. Honestly, that I love it. I love how you actually explain the story of you and your friend on the seaside, and then having that conversation, and then start taking photos. That is very unique, because that is what you call an artist. An artist is not just sitting there trying to figure out what I need to do. And there's a lot of artists out there at the moment, if you know what I mean. And it's like when you have social media, and it's almost like you want to compare yourself to another artist, and you know,
Yeah.
this artist is doing this and that artist is doing that, and what is it I'm doing, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or like, oh, you know, you're running out of ideas. But this is the reason why how beautiful this work has turned into is because this was all or not like it was spontaneous, but it has a meaning within that. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah,
There's a story
yeah.
behind all of that process of forming those work. And look what it is now, is at the National Maritime Museum. And that's the beauty of it, you know?
But
Um,
that's thanks to you guys. I mean, because I sent you a bunch of work.
yeah.
You picked out the one that was most personal to me, and it was not even finished at the time. It
Yeah.
was like in the process of making. I mean, you could see what it's gonna look like, but it wasn't, finalized completely. So that was up to you. Like kudos to you guys for doing it. I mean, otherwise, I don't know. I was thinking about it. I was thinking, these people get me because I've just sent them a bunch of stuff, and this is the one I connect to the most. This is the most important for me, and that's the one they've chosen.
Oh, well, you know what? It's like, yeah, we chose it spontaneously, just like you. It was all spontaneous. Don't worry. But going into the next question, which is what we've sort of touched upon already, it's the importance of artists and how artists need to be part of the society. And what do you think about that? What's your take on the importance of an artist being part of the society? And what I mean by society, I mean about, what's going on right now, the climate, we're talking, we
Yeah.
with the waters. There's so many other things that artists can get involved in. What's your take on, you know, uh being an artist, and it's important to be an artist in this society?
I think it's important to figure out, not for anyone else, but for you, like why you're making art, because you don't just make art because it's pretty. Um, like there is something burning inside of you, even if it's not a burning feeling. But and I think that each individual kind of grasps something different from society and reflects that, or tries to show a better version of that, even if they're showing blood and tears. Like they're just trying to say something with it, in a way to change it,
Mm,
or to show how beautiful something. It doesn't matter. There's just, I think every person works individually, and I don't know. I think it's, sorry, my cat is just all over the place. I think it's, I think it's really important for artists to be part of society, and it's scary how we're not in many ways, because we're not supported. There's no understanding of the research or work that goes into a project a lot of the time. I mean, the amount of pay you get to create something is ridiculous.
right.
That's why we're all doing 1,000 jobs at the same time, or most of us are. So it's an important factor to exist in a society, and I think at this time and age we're also finding ways of um of being independent of all these things that make us struggle, which is really important. So I mean, it's such a wide question, or maybe I didn't understand it well, but I just think
No,
it's
no,
it's
no.
it's something that's growing, and it's something that was very marginalized at some point. Like artists were like of a certain, part of society, or and I'm talking about in every time period. There was always a class of artists. Like
Right,
now
right.
I think we're in a place where artists are everywhere, and it's quite beautiful.
Yeah.
Um, and we also have more mediums accessible to us.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I think it's very personal to each and every one individual. And I think now I like just seeing people play with their phones. I mean, I hate people being on the phones all the time,
Yeah.
but there is an upside to that of people creating, and it's,
Yeah.
they might be stuck in an office all day, and their way of the thing that they're taking photos all the time, and that I find really, ugh, sometimes is actually, you know, their way of being creative, and that's amazing. I
Well,
mean,
yeah, yeah. I think what you're saying there is I think is a very important thing that you just mentioned there. You just touched upon because you know, today's society, being an artist, it's a great opportunity to sort of have your voice. Not every artist have their voice. I mean, everyone is different. But then, like you said, with the social media, picking up your phone, and that's there and that's available. But I feel like you said, I think it's a big topic. It's a big question. Hopefully, we get to dig deeper into it another time.
let's not talk about social media because we're gonna get lost. It's not.
So social media is something that anyone can get lost in. I mean, I can go on it now and I'm gonna get lost. It's almost
Yeah.
when you get lost and you realize how long have you been sitting on your phone,
Oh
uh,
my God.
just
Yeah.
looking at images, just looking at what's going on social media. What comment? You know, the comments and you know who said what. You know, it's just a bit of a madness. But I think, like you
It's
said,
terrible.
it is. It is terrible, but you know, what you said earlier, I feel like, you know, as time goes, there's always a category of artists that kind of dominates the society, and I feel like now there's a lot of artists that it's not like you can count. There's more than like there's so many artists right now where you can just say, okay, I want to know more about this type of work, and you'll find that type of artist, and that's amazing. But I think that the issue that we have now is that how do every artist have their place in this?
Yeah.
How do they have their place so that their voice can be heard, so that their work and practice can be heard and be respected as well?
Yeah.
But you know, one thing that with your work, for instance, has its own entities, its own voice, and it's so funny because there's several other artists in the you know the our connection to water exhibition who have voices and who want to share you know the importance of water and the connection, and it's almost like everyone is have their own entity. It's almost like a solo exhibition, but when you enter into the exhibition, it's almost like every artist and their work are singing the same song. And that's the beauty about being part of the society. And
Yeah.
you gratefully said the same thing. And you know, it's what is amazing at the moment in this climate.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really, I think we're living really like interesting times. Very,
Yeah,
very interesting. No
yeah,
matter what the downsides are, we're really lucky in a lot of ways.
yeah, yeah. So going into the next question, I mean, you kind of talked more about, you know, the analog images for this exhibition. How about talk about more about the sounds that you've used and why did you use those sounds at the exhibition?
First of all, I want to say that some of the sounds are not mine. So half of them are recordings through me, and the other half are from Michael Peters, who's a musician, loop artist, and field recordist. And the other ones are from some online sources that are basically environmental organizations that obviously had them royalty free and stuff. But the sound was of underwater. They were all underwater sounds. My sounds were from the Arctic and Cyprus, the Arctic Circle. And other sounds were of whales and specific animals like crustaceans that had to do with the process of transformation. And with this is, I mean, you hear them and you just, I mean, I'm mesmerized by them, so I'm so super biased. But the fact that that sound is so important underwater is something that I think is above and beyond us, because also our society is really image based, and we don't communicate anymore with sound so much as we do with image.
Right.
And all the ecosystems and all the wildlife underwater communicates with sound, and we're essentially destroying it. I think we're destroying the rest of the planet, but we don't know a lot about it. So we don't know what the effects of it. So it started off for me using the sounds because they all have to do with transformation. I mean, the glacier ice melting, or the waves, or the crustaceans and the underwater sounds from Michael Peters, or the whale sounds, they all had to do something with the topic that I was looking into. But at the same time, I really wanted to bring attention to sound pollution, because underwater sound pollution, because it's not widely discussed, but I think it's a really, really big topic. And we don't even know how much damage we're doing, because underwater sound pollution affects the behavior of animals. And once you affect the behavior of animals, then you're affecting ecosystems. Once you affect ecosystems, it's like this domino effect. And underwater, it's so much more, there's so much, I don't know if this is true, but I can imagine the impact just being bigger or faster, I guess, in a way, because you can contain something over land, but water is connected. It's connected to everything.
Right.
The seas are connected, the rivers are connected. It's just an ongoing connection. So you can't really isolate it. You can't isolate problems underwater.
Yeah. But that's just amazing though. Like how your interest about, the sound underwater. Sometimes we don't really think about what's going on underwater, and then just the magnitude of having sound underwater. Because when we are speaking now, we are not underwater. So it's like it's a language, it's a connection. But then now when you're recording or sampling sounds from uh, under the water now, it's a different language, and there's also a different like a different connection there. And like you said as well, that so much, in terms of the pollution and everything like that, when you try to disrupt that underwater, it's the life underwater is different, it's and I think it's very important to highlight that. And then you basically highlighted it in a very intricate I can't even say it. You've basically connected, the sounds underwater in a very, very beautiful way. And I feel that it's so important that the member of the public get to hear that. And being an artist is about putting things together, like what you've done. Like you said that most of the sounds were not yours, but that's what an artist does. They pick things, they join things, and create something different to what the original sound was. And if you think about like music, for instance, producers a lot of times sample a lot of sounds to make a new sound.
Yeah.
What you've kind of done is you've done that same thing, but underwater, if you know what I mean, musically. So it's almost like, here's my sound, and this is the compilation of different sounds that we normally don't hear on like outside of like above water, but underwater, this is the sound it sounds like. And you've compiled them in a way that is very artistic and also informs the 6 pieces of your black and white analog. And that's just beautifully done.
Thank you.
So I've got 2 more questions. The question here that I'm going to ask is like, in the process of working with the collective makers and the National Maritime Museum, as an artist, what was your experience like? Because this, I'm sure, might be a little bit unusual to what you've done before, like the project generally. Like, what's your take on that?
First of all, I was shocked at how smooth it went because it could have gone so wrong, I mean, I'm sending you stuff, you don't know me, you completely trusted me, you knew the work was not completely finished, and you knew that you just said, okay, she's gonna hand it in. You don't know that. I mean, like, already there was like this connection of trust and believing in you and respect that was, as an artist, oh my God, it's hard not to swear, but it's hard to find that, you know? It's really rare, and it's not it wasn't like this, you know, like people can say, oh, it's because of money or no, there was nothing to it. It was just like this genuine excitement about, I think, each artist's works, obviously from you guys first, and then from the museum as well. I mean, uh everyone from the team online that I met was really, really trying to make sure I was happy. And I was telling people about you guys, like about how you responded to it. And they're like, are you joking? Like, they're sending you samples of the printed paper and they're asking you if it's okay. I mean, you went above and beyond. And now I'm, you know, that was already amazing. And then I met you guys, and I was like, how is this possible? I mean, and I'm not trying to overrate it, but it was just it was incredible. And this is why I think what you're doing is working a lot, is because you're just going with what you love, both of you and Sabrina, and you're so passionate about it and you believe in it, and this is like your honest thing. So bringing all these people together, is not easy. I mean, how do you pick, like, how did they come to you? Because these, all the artists that came here, they we're doing the exhibition together, they're all unique, they're all from different walks of life, and you kind of managed to have them in your scope and then select them. And then we all met, everyone was super lovely, which, you know, there's a lot of ego in the artist world, lots of ego, and I'm not saying I don't have any either, but it's just a thing, because you're putting yourself out there, you're being really vulnerable, so ego levels are up. There was none of that. Everyone was super nice, everyone was like super accommodating, the people from the museum as well. I mean, in general, it was, for me, it was a bit, that's why I said at the start of the interview, I mean, yeah, it's a great opportunity, of course, as an artist. It is. There's no doubt about it. But the whole the whole reason why it's created, why it's curated, who you're picking, how you're presenting it. I mean, the exhibition as well, like the space of how you curated everything, how you made sure that the sounds were blending together, how you made sure that everyone's work, which was completely different, had its own space. Yeah, but not even just physical space, like space in a not so big space.
Yeah.
Talk, because it's really difficult to do that, like to the way even it was designed was really, 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 really well thought out. So in general, it's gone above and beyond, like seriously. No, you can tell from the way I'm talking. It was really incredible. Like, I was so happy I came, because imagine if I didn't come, it would have just been this kind of, yeah, it was a good experience, but it just brought it to the next level, to get to know about your art, to get it, because when you guys were organizing it as well, you were so busy that when we were talking, it was just practicalities. Of course, I got a sense of who you are, because you do when you speak to someone, but it wasn't the same as meeting people in person.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you on behalf of the collective makers and obviously with Sabrina. And also, you know, I would also like to say thank you to the National Maritime Museum for also believing in us as artists to
Yeah.
exhibit a show like that. I think, like you said, one thing about the collective makers is all about passion, is all about the drive, the force, and connecting ourselves with the right artists. And like you said again about the ego, a lot of artists have egos, but what really went well for this particular exhibition is that everyone from the front line to the back end, everyone who's working behind closed doors had the same vision to making sure that the show goes well and making sure that the message is put across with all the artists who have come from different backgrounds, who don't even live in the UK. You know, some of them have come down to the private view, including yourself,
Yeah.
to see this amazing show. it was beautifully done. It was beautifully done, and you know, the fact that the show is still on, the show's still on till hopefully the end of the year, and you know, people can still go there and see the exhibition, to see the work. It's out there, and yeah, well, the last question will be, you know, what's the next step for you? What's the next project you're working on, and is that something that you can tell us?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, uh, so now I'm doing a residency, um, and I'm focusing on our relationship to food,
Mhm.
which is completely new for me because I'm always it's completely new as a topic. Maybe the overall theory is general to my work because it always has to do with nature, but um I'm trying to make a song for it. So I don't know what the hell is gonna happen. I have no idea. So it's like it's a really exciting process where I have to present something in July
Right.
and I have no idea what's gonna happen. But I'm happy if it I don't care how it goes because the process is so different. Because I'm at the moment is I mean I went through various things, but at the moment I'm only focusing on sound and it's like how to how to express a theory through sound without being didactic, like without actually saying what you're actually talking about in your work through sound is so interesting and so different to images because we have a even if we're not a part of a like even if you're not a photographer or a visual artist, we're so used to images
Right. Right.
um as part of our everyday lives to communicate, even emojis, I mean everything we do is through images.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting process and I don't know how I might end up doing a photography exhibition. I don't know, but I mean in
Okay.
this moment it's just sound, so I don't know what's gonna happen or how it's gonna end up, but I'll let you know.
Well, that sounds amazing. And for those who are listening in or watching this podcast, if they wanted to reach out to you and see your work, maybe online or social media, where can they find you?
uh wow. So my I try to keep my website updated and I do try to post on social media.
Can you tell us your website address?
My website is artevlo.com.
Okay.
And the social media is just my name. It's on Instagram. Um, but yeah, if you want something more up to date, it'd probably be best to message me because I hate everything to do with social media.
What I'll do is I'll put a link on the video anyways, so people will find a way to contact you through your website or your social media handles. Well, Artemis, I just want to say thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you on the podcast. You know, the team, the collective makers, the National Maritime Museum are very, very grateful to have you at the exhibition. And we just want to say thank you again for all your works and all your efforts and to making sure you know, the show goes it went well, which is what's still going on. You know, we just want to say thank you. And yeah, thank you very much for joining the podcast.
Thank you for everything. Are you joking? Like, I'm the one that should be saying thank you.
No, not to worry, not to worry. But yeah, that's it for us. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode.